Hey, so today's theme is 3 movies from the aughts, so my teenage years, that I just somehow kind of missed. Like, the vibe that I'm going for is, oh, you haven't seen that movie before? Basically. So the names of the 3 movies I'm talking about are Napoleon Dynamite, Cloverfield, and Borat. First up is Napoleon Dynamite. I just missed the boat with this movie. Everyone was memifying it and quoting it and being ridiculous with it. And I was just too cool for school. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna watch that. That's so lame. Just so dumb. Because honestly, if I would have watched it back then, I would have really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I didn't end up putting it in the really this time, but that's more so just because of all of the quotes from this movie and just I knew so much of this movie without having ever seen it, and if I would have been able to go into it fresh without, knowing the vote for Pedro thing and the dance thing and the, what's the you fat lard one?
Tina, you fat lard, come get some dinner!
Stuff like that. I easily could have really liked it, but it was just, I have so much baggage with this movie that it was difficult for me to cross that threshold into the really category. That being said, I still had a ton of fun with this movie. There's a certain handful of movies from the mid to late aughts that have this very specific kind of quirkiness to them that really reverberates with my soul. And this movie definitely does touch that vibe. And I also just loved the slice of life nature of this movie, because it pretty much is just a slice of life movie, just a lot of random disconnected scenes about Napoleon. There is a very, very loose plot in there with the whole election thing and some other stuff. But you're not watching this movie for this plot, you're watching this movie for the characters. They're such fun, delightful, silly, ridiculous characters. It works really, really well. I would say if you were a fan of this movie back in the day, if it's definitely without a doubt a rewatch. If you were like me and you somehow never watch this movie, as long as you can put away your preconceived notions of this movie and just kind of try to let yourself enjoy it as much as possible, I think you should be able to have a lot of fun with it. If you have no idea what this movie is, it's definitely worth a watch. It's so fun, it's so ridiculous, and so easily quotable.
I see you're drinking 1%. Is that because you think you're fat? Because you're not. You could be drinking whole if you wanted to.
It's a blast. I enjoyed this movie a lot. It was great. I'm so glad I finally watched it. Definitely did myself a disservice by not watching it all those years ago. But yeah, it's a good fun movie. Definitely recommend. Next up is Cloverfield. This movie is directed by Matt Reeves, who just did The Batman, and written by Drew Goddard, produced by J.J. Abrams. I don't know exactly how I missed this movie. I definitely remember it coming out, and I vividly remember Googling, what does the Cloverfield monster look like? Because I was very curious about that, but apparently not enough to actually go see the movie. If I were to guess, I think it's because I thought it was more of a horror movie, and this came out just prior to when I was cool with watching horror movies. I definitely was like a scaredy cat as a little kid, but then in my late teens, I definitely figured out how to enjoy horror, mostly through zombie films. And I think this one was just prior to me making that realization. Even though this isn't a horror film at all, it's a kaiju film, it's a Godzilla film, it's a found footage film. And I do think I would have enjoyed it back in the day. I definitely liked it now. It was fine. It definitely didn't blow my mind by any means. The special effects definitely do not hold up. And there's not really super complex plot or a lot of character depth. It's kind of almost just a gimmicky movie, but it's not bad. It's kind of almost a turn your brain off movie. It's a movie you don't really have to think about, and it's fine. It works. It definitely had a nice solid start to it. It kind of, I forget what part it was, but at some part it just kind of stopped dead, and that really threw me, because I'm you had good pacing, and now suddenly I don't want to watch anymore. But then I paused it for a minute to do something, and I came back, and then it kind of worked out. Yeah. So I would recommend this movie. Don't go into it with the wrong attitude though. This movie's not going to blow your mind, it's not going to change your life. But it is a nice, solid little movie. It accomplishes what it set out to do. So that's good. The characters do some stupid stuff in it, so that was a little frustrating, but it's fine. The movie's fine. It's good. It's enjoyable. And lastly is Borat. I get it. I get what they were setting out to do with this movie. I understand that. I did not care for this movie at all. I had to turn this movie off. It was just gross. And like, I get it. It's a satire and it's making fun of very specific things, but it's also just, I'm very glad that I didn't watch this movie back in the day. And now having seen some of it, I only watched like a third of it. I feel like I made the right choice and I feel like I didn't miss anything. I definitely got everything that I was supposed to have gotten from our culture's interpretation of this film. And I will add though that like, I do appreciate what Sacha Baron Cohen has done over his career, especially with like his kind of gotcha stuff, like what he did with Rudy Giuliani, like that was brilliant. That kind of vibe I'm more for, but what this movie did was just, And like, I've heard him speak about like the anti-Semitic stuff that's in this film and what the point of it is, but it's still really freaking gross. So yeah, no, did not like this movie. I don't recommend it, though I do appreciate Sacha Baron Cohen in general. Alrighty, now for today's rankings. I did it. There was a chord. There were chords there. I tried to step over it, but I walked into it. That seems fitting for this episode. Anyway, first up is Napoleon Dynamite, sitting at number 28 in the quite like section. It's really close to the top of the quite liked. And then not too terribly far behind is Cloverfield, sitting at number 52 in the liked section. And then bringing up the rear, rightfully so, is Borat, Cultural Learnings of America for Make Benefit Glorious Nation of Kazakhstan, sitting at number 86 in the didn't liked category. And this is out of a total of 87 old movies so far this year.